I'd just like to chime in and express how proud I am of my state. My state has been a real leader in finding ways to balance the need to protect the sage grouse and at the same time allow for economic activity. I'm proud to have the chance to introduce someone who's been at the center of that, Kathleen Clarke, who serves as the director of Utah's Public Lands Coordinating Office, which is part of the governor's office. Having worked in the governor's office during the Governor Herbert's predecessor's time in office, Governor Huntsman, I'm familiar with the important role that is played by that office, and I'm very proud to have Kathleen Clarke representing our state. She's someone who understands the competing needs and the need to orchestrate and harmonize the competing needs we have relative to our federal public lands. Prior to her time in her current job, she served as the director of the Bureau of Land Management from 2001 until 2006. So I think Kathleen Clarke's unique experience as both a state official and a federal official uniquely qualify her to be a witness in front of our committee, and I'm proud to introduce her today as a witness.
Thank you. Still hear from Ms. Kathleen Clarke, Director of the Public Lands Policy Coordinating Office for the State of Utah. Thanks for being with us.
Chairman Barrasso and members of the committee, it is a privilege for me to testify before you today on matters relating to the sage-grouse conservation and implementation of federal sage-grouse conservation plans. As was mentioned, I currently represent the state of Utah and serve in the position of Director of the Public Lands Policy Coordinating Office, and was also asked by the governor to be the state's representative on the task force that has been referenced. In these positions, I do oversee the implementation of Utah's sage-grouse conservation plan, and I oversee coordination with the federal agencies on the implementation of their plan. The sage-grouse population in Utah makes up only about 7% of the total national population. We have 7.5 million acres of habitat, and about half of that is owned by the federal government. Utah got on this problem years before it was, they were approached by Secretary Salazar or even by his predecessor. We have nearly 20 years of research and data that's been accumulated by graduate students who've been digging into this problem for years. And that work was done based on the foresight of our Division of Wildlife Resources, and that actually started when I was directing the Utah Department of Natural Resources. Since 2006, the state has invested over $50 million into sage-grouse management and research. We have protected 25,000 acres of habitat and increased sage-grouse populations by 50% since 2013. The greatest threats to sage-grouse in Utah are fire, cheatgrass, and the encroachment of pinyon juniper trees into the sage-grouse habitat. We have found that as we prevent and manage fire and restore sagebrush habitat by removing excess trees, we actually can increase sage-grouse populations. I just want to highlight a few of the issues and frustrations we have in dealing with our federal partners regarding the federal plans. I remain very concerned that one-size-fits-all national standards are being imposed to manage sage-grouse in Utah. For example, the Forest Service is looking to implement grass heights, stubble height standards for livestock that are based on conditions in Idaho and Oregon, but that are wholly unrealistic for Utah. Critical sage-grouse conservation areas in the southern part of Utah have likely never seen the 7 inches that the Forest Service is looking for, and they likely never will. Imposition of an unachievable grass height standard will result in the eventual elimination of livestock grazing in the area, which could lead one to believe that, in fact, that is the desired outcome of the federal plan. In Utah alone, $2.5 billion a year come from economic activities in sage-grouse habitat. And under these federal plans, oil and gas development is being severely restricted, if not totally banned, depending on the designation or the classification of habitats the federal government imposes. Last year alone, there were over 480,000 acres of oil and gas lease requests that were deferred by the federal agencies due to sage-grouse conservation. And my third point is that the feds are suffering from woeful inertia in dealing with their own plans. The federal officials in our state have been waiting for months for that Washington knows best implementation guidance. And as I have suggested, sage-grouse conservation action needs to be the result of bottom-up process that involves many partners and that is informed by the best available science for that particular locale. All too often while working with federal managers, we have been told that sage-grouse-related decisions are all on hold until direction comes from the DC Brain Trust. What a waste of time and opportunity. In summary, and drawing on 35 years of experience dealing with public land issues, I recommend just a few changes that I believe could help. First, I recommend the BLM follow the state sage-grouse plan. It is working and it will continue to work. It is an all lands plan and we invite the federal government to fully participate. Second, we need less Washington, D.C. interference in plan implementation. Local BLM and Forest Service officials are competent, they're very capable, and we have worked closely with them in refining our shared understanding and knowledge about the sage-grouse and in undertaking habitat restoration projects and habitat protection projects. These partners stand by our side regularly, and they are essential to the successes that we have enjoyed. I urge the BLM and the director of the BLM and the chief of the Forest Service and their respective cabinet secretaries to step back and allow local federal officials to do their jobs without the nagging requisite of constantly seeking permission from the mothership in DC before making decisions or taking action. And finally, we hope that the federal agencies will adopt the compensatory mitigation measures that are being developed in the states. Again, we feel like a one-size-fits-all standard would be inappropriate and very unhelpful. Our legislature directed the development of such a plan, and we are asking that the federal agencies adopt that. And let me assure you, the state of Utah will continue to protect, conserve, and create sage-grouse habitat, regardless of the federal plan. We are confident that our plan addresses the real threats to conservation of sage-grouse in Utah, rather than the federal plan that seems more focused on limiting access to federal lands than on species conservation. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much.